Whoever you were before, that's over.
What are we doing? What is the plan?
We go tonight.
911, what is your emergency?
Aloha! This is Trinidad the Island Man, your Island Man, coming to you live once again from beautiful Hawaii here on the island of Oahu, bringing you, yes you, the best movie reviews on the entire island of Oahu. And yes, this is Trinidad the Island Man, your Island Man. And last night, I went ahead and I watched a new movie that came out on VOD, Video on Demand. Right now you can get it on Google Play and Amazon Prime for $20, either one, $20. This was supposed to come out back in August, around August 12th. This is the new Janelle Monae movie called ANTEBELLUM. And, you know, over the summer, actually all the way back from February, March, I kept expecting, well, I was looking forward to this because I kept seeing the trailers for it. It looked really scary from the trailers. Something to do, it looked like time travel maybe, along with slavery and then modern day. You know, I was really looking forward to seeing how it was going to pan out. Well, without further ado, remember our rating scale. Shock a thumbs up. It's good to see. I recommend it. Shock a thumbs down. It's bad to see. It's junk. I don't recommend it. And for Janelle Monae's movie Antebellum, it is a shock a thumbs up. Now, this is from the producers of Us and also Get Out. And to be fair, you can feel that. I would probably compare this movie if you were to mash up Get Out with M. Night Shyamalan's The Village. That would be the best explanation of this movie that I could give you. Now, without, well, this is going to be a little bit of spoilers in this review because you really can't talk about it without it. But the overall gist of it is Janelle Monae plays a woman, a black woman in modern day who is pretty much like a motivational speaker slash therapist for African American studies and maybe politics. Talking about social economic issues that black women in today's society have to deal with. You know, that's pretty much the basis of her character. You know, she has a daughter. She's married to what seems to be a wonderful husband. She seems to have the perfect life. But all of that is stripped away from her very, very suddenly, and in a manner of which is very, how should I say, very terrifying and despicable for any black man or woman today being forced back into slavery. That is the gist of all I can say without pretty much spoilers. From here on in, this will be spoilers. But again, it is a shock a thumbs up. Again, the screenplay, and this was directed by a duo of Jared Jared, well, I'll put their names up here. These two people, they did double duty on the screenplay and for directing, and unfortunately it feels a little clunky because of that, or because of the association with Get Out and Us, which in themselves were both kind of clunky movies. They asked a lot from you to believe in. Verisimilitude is what can you let go of the unbelievable and accept that for this movie? Kind of an Ed Wood's kind of a thing. However, for this movie, that works much, much better. Like I said, from the trailers early on, way back from February, March, I'd expected this to be some kind of time travel, because you see Janelle Monae's character, this very accomplished African-American woman in today's society, and then all of a sudden you get a kind of a retro look. She's on a plantation being a slave, working in the fields, etc. And then, as kind of a spooky looking misdirect thing, they show like an airplane, a jetliner flying in the sky. But you're not sure if she's seeing that, if she's maybe looking into the future, if maybe these are two completely different women, maybe her ancestor, and for some reason she's brought back into her perception back in the days of the Civil War, or perhaps Janelle Monae from the present has been trapped in some type of time travel loop or bubble or doorway that forced her back into the past, and she must try to escape to the future, to freedom, back to freedom. Or maybe, because it also shows like this hotel that seems to be haunted, this spooky little, shining like child, and shining like hotel that she's in, kind of a plantation like style hotel, Victorian kind of a hotel like that in the South, where she's staying in modern day, and somehow that transports her, again tied to the inside. Maybe it's a supernatural kind of effect other than science or something like that. Spoilers, it is not. The first half of this movie opens up and she is in the plantation, working in the fields. We find that she had attempted to escape. She was captured again, brought back. We don't know how many times she has done this, but this time she gets a really bad beating. Her friend that most likely assisted her in some way is killed, lynched, and shot. Very, very disheartening stuff. Very powerful stuff. And then we find her, after she is branded, has more of her torture and punishment for trying to run away, being a runaway slave. She is branded by what seems to be the master of this plantation, a Confederate captain or general of some type, leading his, he commands a regiment of men, a group of men, Confederate soldiers on this plantation, and they seem to run it. Cut to that night where she's sleeping, and she hears a phone ring, a cell phone ring. And it's like, we think, what's going on? And then he goes, answers it, and he answers it like any other day, like normal. So boom, right there, right then, this is going into, this is actually happening in the present. Somehow this is happening in the present, and this man, is also from the present. He's not from the past. This isn't, some type of time travel, quirky story like that. We find out that she has actually been kidnapped, abducted, like every other black person on this plantation, forced into slavery, picking cotton, all the stereotypical things that we have seen, and that these people that are in control, these white slave owners or plantation runners, are actually everyday normal people, normal, as Trump would say, good people, but they're racists, they're white supremacists, and believing that they are superior to African Americans, and somehow having some type of affluency. I guess they're rich, they own this property, they have kidnapped these people, which is, and forced them into labor on this plantation in modern day, aka like the M. Night Shyamalan Village, the Village movie, taking place in modern day. And Janelle Monae has to escape. And she does that after hearing this cell phone. She uses this cell phone. She steals it away from, her master to make an emergency phone call to 911. Unfortunately, it is not an unbelievable circumstances. You can't, it's like, oh, this was some supernatural power that brought her to the past, some kind of psychic link with a descendant. No. And it wasn't science fiction technology that this, like, maybe Get Out, where this plantation owner from the future or from the present sucks everybody, black people into the past, to relive, the slave years. No. So unfortunately, it is much, much more diabolical and believable and terrifying on that level. In a recent interview on Instagram, Janelle Monae went into it, talking about how this is her first solo starring role, where she is the headliner in this movie. And I have to say, she does very, very well with what is given to her as far as, this plot, the situation she has to deal with. She does that extremely well. As I think, as she says that anyone in this situation, these are triggers for black people in America, even today. And, and she had to really dig deep to overcome some of those fears to be able to play this role, and give it the due that it deserves. Because she even says, it's like, ooh, at first, she wasn't sure she wanted to take this kind of role. It very well, easily, she said, this could actually happen. She could be abducted and she could be kidnapped away. And, with all the craziness of the world, there could be some white supremacist group that goes out, if not to this extreme, just straight up and kills, black people for their sport, maybe after torturing them, and who knows what else. And I'm afraid that I have to agree with her. Now, maybe 3 years ago, I would have not, I would have said, no, that can't happen. 3-4 years ago, I probably was like, this is America, that kind of stuff. Yeah, you could be kidnapped, but, the M. Night Shyamalan thing, like The Village, where they got this old way of living and tucked away from society. It's like, I don't know if I buy that. But now, today, Trump, high-level people in the United States government, and I'm not like going crazy or anything, where the president himself says, oh, there are good people on both sides in that Charlottesville protests and riot that took place even earlier, not, almost condoning, the white supremacist activity taking place there that ignited such violence, and his looking down on peaceful protesters even today for the Black Lives Matter movement. It's really not far-fetched that this could take place, or something similar to it. Add on to that fact that, President Trump himself has used unnamed unnamed troops or federal agents, some type of secret police, because their designations are not on their uniform, and have used just unmarked vans to pick up these Black Lives Matter protesters, or even some of the other protesters, throughout Portland, throughout Washington, D.C., etc. All, which is supposed to be against the law. Back in 2000, as early as back in 2007, in a brief, kind of feeling out, a possible law enforcement career, I was struck at some of the briefings that indicated just how much the United States is under threat from a variety of white supremacist groups throughout the United States. And that has only continued to increase more and more with all of this hatred and discrimination that, if not fueled by our current president, is not extinguished, to say the least. So on those notes, this is a very terrifying film, and it works much better than, Us or Get Out, or even the M. Night Shyamalan, The Village. And that's why I gave it a Shaka thumbs up, whereas I had given those other films a Shaka thumbs down just because of that lack of verisimilitude, that lack of believability. But this one has it in spades. Let me just say that. And on that alone, it is terrifying. Now, this isn't a perfect film. It does kind of clunk along a little bit. I think those two directors, especially in the screenwriting, and since they directed it, they wrote it, they directed it. There is a part in here where where, like I say, she hears the cell phone, it wakes her up on the plantation. And in that moment, it flashes back to the beginning of all these events. Remember, this movie opens up, she's on the plantation. So she hears that cell phone, it rings, it wakes her up, and in her, and for the audience, it flashes us back to the very beginning of these events, where she is at home with her husband, her daughter, hearing a cell phone ring to wake her up, so that she can go to a business meeting, that she's got to catch a plane in the next couple of hours to go to this business meeting. And it is at this meeting that she goes to where she is kidnapped and abducted and taken into this. But at first, before you see that, it's very easy to want to believe that, this could be her flashing back and forth through time. But no, they don't go ahead and they don't do that. they simply go ahead and kind of waste that. If they had done that a couple more times in a couple other scenes, it would have added a little bit more to the ambiance of the creepiness factor of, you know, having the audience try to figure out what's going on. But unfortunately, at that point, they pretty much play it straightforward so it catches back up to the beginning. And you find out that she was kidnapped and abducted and put in this situation where it is modern day. I think they could have strung that mystery along a little bit more with a few more flashbacks and flash forwards from her before she was kidnapped, before we knew she was kidnapped, into where she is now on the plantation. I think if they had been able to do that, that would have worked out much, much better, and definitely, you know, would have made things a little bit more, say, more interesting for you to figure out. But yeah, so other than that, I still say this is a shock a thumbs up kind of movie. It's very good to see. I wish it had hit theaters so that it would have hit a wider audience. I just don't know who's going to, you know, rent this on VOD, especially since, you know, there's not a lot of marketing for it. Like when it was coming to the theaters, you would see the trailers in front of the other movies. That's the only reason I knew this movie was coming out, and I was waiting for it. Without that, I think it's just going to kind of disappear on the VOD system until maybe it shows up on Netflix or Amazon later on streaming, where people can discover it and appreciate it for the message that it presents. Now, I don't know. Those are my thoughts on the issue. Shock a thumbs up overall for Antebellum. You know, if you're a Janelle Monae fan like myself, you know, her Hidden Figures, her Moonlight, you know, characters, definitely you'll want to watch this movie to see how she carries the movie as the primary star in the movie. And I look forward to seeing what else she might be in next. All right, thank you so much, and aloha.